play some 10-minute chess. I want to continue playing the Sicilian, and bishop c4, we've seen this before. A lot of beginner to intermediate level players play this move. And this bishop c4 is not necessarily a good move, but a lot of people play it anyways. But my opponent is following up correctly by going a3, so the bishop has a square to hide. So it's not as bad if they play it this way. I'm not saying it's that good though. They're going to go all the way back. That's their idea. That's cool. Yeah, that's cool with me. Now we need to be careful. This guy's obviously prepared. He has an idea, bishop g5, try to hunt this pawn. He has an idea. Try to remember how this goes. I start by bishop e7, getting closer to castling. h3, very interesting. Okay. Knight to f3 played. Also, we can go h6 if we want. Just stopping this idea of bishop going to g5, trading and weakening this pawn. Then the bishop can maybe develop to f5. Or we can go b6, bishop e7. I don't know, but I think bishop f5 seems at least kind of reasonable. Bishop f4. Now the move a6, I think. Expansion with b5 is interesting. Actually, we could have also gone d4. But we'll see. Knight e2 is played here. The knight wants to go here. Understandable. Bishop d6 strikes me as being relatively good. Good time to play it, getting rid of our somewhat passive bishop on d6. But maybe it's white who wants to play this kind of c3, yeah, this kind of stuff. I'm surprised by that. Can I go queen? Can I go rook takes e2? Takes. I'll be winning a piece. Takes, takes, I take here. I don't understand. I think my opponent overlooked a simple tactic. Bishops. The bishop was defended by the knight, so I take, removing the defender of the bishop. Classic Tactics 101. Rook is stronger. Two pieces are generally better than a rook. This is no exception here. Those two bishops are just raking these diagonals. If I can go bishop c7, queen d6, I've got the battery, for example. Just one idea. b4 was played. Okay. Okay. What if I go here? I'm not sure, because that opens up this. My opponent is trying to undermine my center. I can also go b6, just doing nothing. I don't see a need to really deal with that. Maybe one idea for my opponent is d4 and knight to e5. Somewhat legitimate. d4, c4, and knight e5. Maybe but then knight e4 attacking this pawn. Now explain what I'm thinking after the game. Rook b1 was played. I just noticed when you play rook b1, you line this up. So the move c4 becomes more attractive suddenly. Move c4 becomes more attractive. Noticing tactical patterns like c4 is one way to improve your rating during tactics and implementing them in your games. So c4, fairly sure this is a good move, exerting pressure on this pawn here. Maybe the move is like knight e1 defending it, I don't know. Also queen d6 now hits this. Just notice queen d6 also. Seems like an interesting try. Queen d6, maybe the rook goes here though. I have an excellent position. We can combine this, I think, with one of the ideas I was talking about before, with this bishop c7, queen d6 going for checkmate, but now the queen on d6 also has a threat of taking a3. This also stops the rook coming to b6, which would attack my knight. So that's my idea behind bishop c7, multi-purpose move. Now let's see what my opponent comes up with. Rook b7 played here, and that doesn't change plan. I think queen d6. The little idea here is very strong. Maybe knight f3, but then that drops the pawn. As you can see, this is up. Oh, that's a big blunder. Queen. It's just my position is very good, right? So it's hard to make good moves for white. So I think I found some nice resources in the game. Now after rook d2, we're just a queen up. It's not very fun for white to try to defend this. Rook d2, knight e5, I think, removing the defender, and still going for the idea of queen to h2. And anyways, the game is over now, so let's go analyze all the opponent's thinking. Okay, so e4, c5, we played the Sicilian. It's very combative, opening, asymmetrical, fighting for the center, preventing d4 with the c4 pawn. Now, the opponent goes bishop c4, first of all, which is not a great move. And the reason is because after e6, the bishop is biting on granite, as I like to say. And after d5, we're going to win a tempo, and the bishop has to retreat again. And we want to get d5 in anyway, so fundamentally, bishop c4 is not sound. And knight c3, it's a good way of following up by stopping d5, but that can only go so far. We can also go a6, b5, and we can also go knight f6 to then support d5. So a3 was played, which is an excellent move, giving the bishop a square to retreat after it does eventually get pushed back. And where the bishop can act as a sniper along the long diagonal, it's not a terrible way to play. It's not great for white though. Knight f6, d3, and I see no reason to delay. After d3, I go d5. And after takes, bishop back all the way to a2, at least the bishop's doing a useful job, but now black has the center. As white, you have to question your opening choice. Now, why does black have the center when you're playing white? and you don't have that much to prove for it. So bishop e7, I want to continue developing. And so I just developed my bishop to a modest square, and I was kind of worried that white would go bishop to g5 and try to trade off my knight and then take my pawn. Because as you can see, this knight is defending the pawn, and if white goes bishop here and then trades it, then white can take my pawn for free. So that's one idea I was a little bit nervous about. Bishop g5, maybe in that position, bishop e6 could have been tried. But I wasn't sure. We'll see after the game. Bishop e6 just developing, adding another defender seems to be fine. h3, castle, or I could have also gone h6, stopping the idea, as I said before, of bishop g5. Knight f3, and here I finally do go h6, stopping the idea of bishop g5, as I said before, and also giving my king a left square so it doesn't get back rank checkmated, which is always useful later in the game. So after castles, I go rook e8, seeing how this rook belongs on the open file anyways. Notice in all these positions, I could maybe go d4, but then this bishop would be opened up, and white could go maybe knight b1, knight d2, and knight c4, or d4, knight e4 directly. I wasn't sure this was accomplishing what I wanted to, so I refrained from playing d4 unless necessary. But in such positions, white can also go d4 themselves. But I don't know if d4 is good here because I have the option of c4. Now the bishop feels like it's shut in. Maybe b3? But, so d4 I could also take. After takes, we would get an isolated pawn position, which is also should be fine for black. Rook e1, I think maybe d4 is better. I don't know, but d4 is what I would play if I were playing white here. Rook e1, I go bishop f5, finishing my development. After bishop f4, I go a6 because I don't like how the knight can get in here. But I don't know if a6 was necessary either. But the idea I had was just to go b5 and expand, maybe eventually go either d4 or c4. So I played a6. And my opponent here goes knight to e2. This I don't know if is the best because it brings the knight away from the center. And I take this opportunity to play bishop d6, exchanging off bishops, because as you can see, my bishop on e7 was quite passive. It's my worst piece by far. And thus, playing bishop d6 can exchange the active bishop on f4 with the passive bishop that was on e7 previously. After c3, I think it's a big mistake, as we saw in the game, because rook takes e2. So instead, I think even just taking and then going c3 and then going knight g3 would be a better continuation, obviously. And the way I saw this was this bishop looks a little bit loose. The only thing that protects the bishop is knight, so therefore I start to calculate rook takes here. And I think I just start thinking that way, and that's how I see the tactic. Okay, my opponent should have resigned a long time ago, but it's okay. So let's pick off. Let's go back to the beginning. Okay, I'll just go over these quickly since you already discussed it. Knight f6, d3, d5. We already talked about this. Okay, the bishop goes back to a2, and bishop e7 was played. Black is better here, by the way. Black is better here. a3, castles, knight f3, h6. But d4 is a legitimate move, actually. And after knight to e2, h6, castles, rook e8. Maybe bishop f4 is the move here. Bishop f8, rook e1, bishop e6. And the idea is simply that you cancel out the bishop on a2 by playing bishop e6. This is perfectly legitimate. Black is also better here. Instead, I don't go for that approach. I don't go for the approach of bishop e6 and d4. Because in this case, white can go d4 himself, after c4, maybe b3. And there'll be some tension here. I don't want to go takes, because now the pawn structure is symmetrical and white's bishop is getting active again, and I don't like that. Why do that? So I would also be a little bit wary if I take. If white does take, sorry. If I don't take and I play like rook here, white does take, I always have to be wary of move d5. And this is not something I really want to do, but it's fine. It's fine here. But it's just another consideration I have to take into account. So I play bishop f5 instead of going for the whole idea with bishop e6, having to calculate d4. But in a classical game, I think you should probably also consider bishop e6, d4, and calculate there. But this is rapid chess, and you can't always have time to calculate everything. My opponent played bishop f4, I go a6. Good move, trying to go for that idea I said. My opponent goes knight e2, which is slightly inaccurate, as it takes the knight away from the center. I go bishop d6, which is okay, I think, relatively reasonable, and my opponent quickly blunders by playing c3. As I said, this is a big blunder because that knight was the only thing defending this bishop, so I sacrifice my rook, and then I take the bishop, and two pieces are certainly better than a rook, 95% of cases. This is because two pieces can control more squares, and working together they can accomplish more in general. The only exception to this rule is, one of the only exceptions to this rule is when it's the endgame and there's a lot of scattered pawns, in which case the rook could shine because it's able to pick off scattered pawns and outmaneuver the two pieces that might be more clumsy. Here b4 is played. I played b6 because there was no need to react to the tension. I could have taken, but usually, in many cases at least, keeping the tension is very good. So keep the tension, trade, which doesn't change the nature of the position at all. Then rook b1. Here I go c4, seeing that the bishop is pinning this pawn, which is an excellent move. Knight d1, and then I go, knight e1, and then I go bishop c7. This is a very neat move because it's a multi-purpose move. One of the purposes is to build a battery with queen d6, going for checkmate. The other purpose of the move is, before, if I had gone queen to d6, for example, there would have been some rook b6 in some lines. And rook b6, and now if I take that pawn, I'll lose this, and why would I want to do that? So by going bishop c7, what I'm saying is I'm covering b6, and now when I go queen d6, not only is it going to be a battery threatening to checkmate the enemy king, but I also have queen takes a3. So bishop c7 exclamation mark. After rook b7, I execute my plan, queen here, and knight f3 covers the checkmate, but the knight was defending d3, so I quickly go bishop takes d3, establishing my bishop as bastion here. It's just blocking white's position completely, essentially paralyzing white, in fact. And if my opponent had gone here, I could have a free hand to do whatever I want, because this bishop is just blocking the position, stopping the queen from going anywhere, and this knight is tied down to defending h2, therefore bishop e4 could be a nice way to try to remove that defender and then go queen h2 with the attack. But my opponent sacrificed queen for bishop, and he has to call an ambulance for the queen after c takes d3, and then resigns, or he doesn't resign, he ditches the game. So good game to my opponent. Hope you enjoyed that. Sicilian, and thanks for watching. See you next time.